Hi, and welcome to episode 10 of the Our Knits podcast. My name is Katie. Thank you for joining me. I'm coming to you from Long Island, New York, where I live with my cat Whiskey and my crested gecko Scully. This is a podcast about knitting and crocheting and all of the yarny goodness that goes along with those things. You can find me on Instagram as @ArrowKnits, and you can find me on Ravelry as knitmusic. There's also an Our Knits Ravelry group where I post all of the show notes and things like that if you'd like to reference anything. There's also a questions thread. If you have any questions for me, go ahead and ask. I'll do my best to respond. So it's been quite a while since I last filmed. It's been several months, I believe. So as you can see, there's been a change of scenery to the Our Knits podcast. I've had a lot of changes going on in my life, and moving is one of them. So this is where I'm filming now, I guess. I'm not sure if this is the best spot, but I thought we'd try it out. And yeah, so I just wanted to film. This is going to be a very short episode. I don't have a lot of knitting to show you, and I don't have too much that's very different from my last episode, but I felt compelled to film today. This is very impromptu. I just wanted to say hi to you all, everybody, and just sort of check in. I wasn't knitting for a while, just because, like I said, I was going through so many changes and I was so busy. I've moved, I've got a new job, all kinds of other things are going on as well. So it just didn't feel right for me to be knitting, which is unusual, and it's a strange feeling because I know that knitting is a source of comfort for a lot of people. But for me, I tend to be a person that sort of ties a lot of thoughts and feelings into whatever it is that I'm doing. So I had projects going on the needles that I just didn't feel like working on because they would sort of bring up certain feelings. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. Maybe I'm being a little dramatic. That's probably true. But yeah, let me know if you feel that way as well about knitting or about anything really. So recently I've sort of been inspired to knit again and sort of let it help me through things instead of letting it make me feel bad. So yeah, let's talk about some knitting. So the first thing I want to show you is my Saturate shawl, which I've now been working on for months because I put it aside for at least 2 months straight, I would say. But I'm on the border section now, which is super exciting. So I finished the body of the shawl. So this is my Saturate shawl by Orange Knits, Mara Catherine Briner. By the way, I want to mention that I didn't write down any show notes for myself today or any sort of cues or prompts, so I'm totally winging this, which is not really my style and not something I'm generally good at, but why not, right? So anyway, here is my Saturate shawl. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you the whole thing. Oh yeah, alright, so here's the, let's try this. Here's the body of the shawl, and it's curling under here because of the cord, but you can see, and let me show you the final fade. So that's how the body of the shawl ended. I'm super happy with all of the way the colors melted in this. It's so beautiful. So I started the border section, which is so fun because it's only like, I think it's like 30 stitches back and forth, and you have an I-cord edging on each side. So it's making a crazy, beautiful transition section. So if you see, so this is an I-cord edge here, and then there's an I-cord edge there at the bottom as well. And then you do these eyelets every now and then, and that's where the fringe is gonna go in. I'm sort of dreading all of that fringe, but it'll be fun. So I haven't gotten too far in the border. I've Still, right now I'm melting colors E and D, because you work backwards in the colors when you start the border. So you start with the final color and you're going to work on through to section A. So I'm melting, I'm almost done melting, and I'm going to be moving on fully to color D pretty soon. Which color D was the color I was most iffy on. It's this like purpley pink one, and I actually really love it. This is Casual Fashion Queen, the yarn, and it is her Bohemian set, which I know I've mentioned before. I've shown you this before. So I just love this I-cord edging. I think it just gives such a beautiful professional looking edge, and it makes me feel like I'm really good at knitting. So, which is a good thing, I guess, right? Yeah, so I want to really, really work through this border because I've stalled out on this project so many times, and I'm ready to, not that I'm ready to be done with it, I'm still enjoying knitting it. I just really, really want to get it moving because it's finally fall. So today is October 1st, and yesterday and today are sort of the first days, at least here on Long Island, that it's been somewhat cool in any way. It's been super hot. So now that the fall weather is actually here, I want to finish the projects that I have on the needles because now I feel like I can actually wear them. So I really want to use this shawl, and I think that if I work really, really hard, I could finish it before Rhinebeck, because it's Rhinebeck season, people. Rhinebeck is like 3 weekends away, I think. I'm super excited. I am going to be there on the Saturday. So last year was the first year that I went to Rhinebeck, and it was a lot of fun. I went on the Sunday only. But I know that Saturday is sort of the busier, crazier day when there are more people there, and I'm a little bit anxious because I don't love lots of like crowds and people, but it'll be totally worth it. And my friend Sarah and I are actually going up the day before, and we're also going to go to the Indie Untangled Trunk Show, which I am thrilled about because I really wanted to do that last year, but it was on the Friday night and I went to Rhinebeck on Sunday. And of course I'm talking about the New York Sheep and Wool Festival that's held in Rhinebeck. I'm sure that almost everybody knows that's what I mean when I say Rhinebeck. So I'm so looking forward to it. I had wanted to do a Rhinebeck sweater this year. I really thought I was going to. I have a couple sweaters quantities worth of yarn that I thought I was totally gonna make a sweater, and you know, life happened and I didn't get to do that. But I would like to finish some sort of project to show off at Rhinebeck. So I think that if I really, really, really push myself, so that's 3 weeks. So if I push myself and can finish this border section in like 2 weeks, and then I just block it out. You have to block it before you attach all of the fringe, and the fringe is color melted as well, which is intimidating, but you have to block it first, which makes sense. But so I think that maybe this could be the project that I get to wear and show off at Rhinebeck. Hopefully it's somewhat cool at Rhinebeck this year. I know last year, at least on the Sunday, it ended up being pretty warm. Not really a great day for wool. So we'll see about that. I still want to get a sweater on the needles. Hopefully I will. I've been debating on which sweater I want to make first. I have a couple in my queue that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking maybe the Wolf River sweater with some Cascade Eco Plus that I have on hand. Maybe that's the one I should go for. Somebody in my Instagram feed just finished one, and it's actually in a really similar color to the yarn I have for it, and now I have, you know, serious Wolf River envy. So I might start that one. I don't know. My knitting, you know, mojo is on and off these days. Some days I don't pick it up. Well, some weeks I don't pick it up at all, and then there are some weeks where I want to knit every day and I feel really compelled to knit. So, you know, hopefully hopefully it'll level out and I'll go back to just wanting to knit all the time. I don't have a lot of free time anymore with the job that I'm doing right now, but I do tend to like to use knitting to wind down, and sometimes I'm not even able to do that. So I hope that that changes for me and then I can start doing that again, because it's something that I really enjoy. So that's the big project I have on the needles, and I'm keeping it in my fringe field bag, which is my favorite. I love this. Say hi to my worm. What else do I have on the needles? Oh, I did start a new project a couple weeks ago. I started the Clarke socks, which is a pattern by Jacqueline Salem. I don't know if you watch the Brooklyn Knit Folk podcast. I'm sure that most of you do, and if you don't, get over there and watch Jacqueline's podcast because it's fantastic. I got a new mug. I'm in love with this mug because it's round and I can hold it like this. And it just makes me feel like a better person. Yeah, so you should be watching Jacqueline's podcast because it's super, super informative and a very sort of relaxed podcast. I know that I've mentioned it before, but she has sort of dipped her toe in the designing pool, and she came up with Clarke socks, and it's a cabled sock pattern, which is my chibi needle. I lost my chibi needle. I've been using my chibi needle as a cable needle because it's so tiny. I will pick it up and show you what I mean in a second. So here's my Clarke sock. So it's a cabled pattern, and then it's got like a raised pearl motif here on the sides of it as well. Let me get you really close. Yeah. And then on the back, it's got just a smaller little cable design that's not as intricate with the plain stockinette. I'm knitting this in Tuscan Knits yarn on her Bray base, which is her BFL base. I believe it's BFL nylon. And this color is Pigwidgeon. So I've had this stashed for a little while. I think I showed it when I got it, and I didn't know what I was gonna make with it. And it's very, very earthy tones, all neutrals, which is a departure from the sort of brights that I'm usually into for knitting anyway. My wardrobe in general, I tend to like, gray everything, or black and white stripes. But this is so pretty, and it's got so much variation in it with all of the neutrals in here. And of course it's Pigwidgeon, which is a Harry Potter reference. So it was yarn that I had to have, and I've been saving it, and I saw this cabled pattern, and I thought that it would make a really cozy pair of fall socks, because this just sort of screams fall to me. So and these are my little stitch markers from Truffle Shuffle on here, which I love. They're little snagless ones, and they're perfect because they're skinny. So they're perfect for fingering weight yarns because I don't feel like they're affecting the gauge at all, which is something that really bothers me when I use stitch markers on fingering weight yarns. I feel like a lot of times it sort of pulls out, it sort of goes in with your stitches and sort of makes them bigger, which annoys me. But these are perfect. They're skinny and they're snagless and they're adorable, and I love them. So I'm sort of not struggling, but I'm back and forth on these cables on how to do them. I used to know how to do cabling without a cable needle, and I forgot. I keep trying to do it the way I remember, and it's just not working. So if you're not familiar with cabling, basically it's the magical process of switching the order of the stitches on your needles and knitting them out of order so that they cross over each other. It's a pretty It's a pretty awesome concept, actually, and cables aesthetically are one of my favorite things to look at, and it's something I find really desirable in a knitted fabric, but executing them isn't always my favorite. So there is definitely a way to cable without a cable needle. I used to do it. I don't know how. I remember that cabling front was easier than cabling back. I could be mixing them up, but I remember that one of them was way easier than the other. So I tried using a cable needle and my cable needle was too thick. So what I've been doing is just using my chibi darning needle, which I've dropped on the floor, so hold that thought. So here's what I'm talking about. It's my little blunt tip tapestry needle, and it's called Chibi. And I swear by these. They're my favorite darning needle. They're a little bit thick, but I still use them to weave in fingering weight stuff. I've never had a problem. So I've actually been using this as my cable needle because it's sort of skinny for a cable needle. Also, because I had a skinny metal cable needle that was really a cable needle, and I dropped it on the deck and it fell through and I can't reach it. So unless some really nice squirrel goes under there and fetches it for me, it's never coming home. So I've just been using this as a little cable needle. You're only crossing, I think the most stitches you have to cross are 3 at a time, so it's not like you're crossing a ton of stitches, but I'm enjoying the pattern. It's super intuitive. This does not look intuitive, right? You're looking at it and you're like, look at that complicated cable and all of those like purl diagonals. It's really easy to memorize, and the back is really, really easy to memorize. You're only cabling on a couple rows per repeat. So I highly recommend this pattern. It's only in one size. It's a 64 stitch sock, which is what I make anyway. It calls for size 1. I'm using size 1.5. These are just Addy needles. These are Addy size 1, but if you're familiar with Addy's US sizes, you know that their US 1 is really a 2.5 millimeter needle, which is 1.5, which is my normal. I usually use 2.5 millimeter needles. I'm magic looping this. I actually used a 9-inch circular for the cuff because for some reason I'm rusty with my magic loop cast-ons, and I wasn't pleased with the way that the cast-on edge was looking, so I just did it on a 9-inch circular, and then I switched out to magic loop because I didn't want to do cables on a 9-inch circular. I just like doing plain stuff on circulars. I don't know. I don't know. I tried doing lace on my 9-inch circulars once, and I didn't really care for that, so I figured I probably wouldn't like the cabling. So anyway, it's only available in the one size. I don't know if those of you who are more savvy than I would be able to modify it to make it to accommodate more stitches. There is a plain section here on the back, but I don't know how that would work down the line when you're doing the heel. I'm sure it's doable. This yarn I want to mention is amazing. So I mentioned before it's BFL nylon blue-faced Leicester, which is probably my favorite wool. So BFL is it's a little more toothy, so it's not soft like merino. It's soft, but it doesn't have that super high micron count that merino does. I find it just to be perfect. It's sort of got that crispness to it that I really enjoy, and I just think it makes a really sturdy fabric that's still soft and warm, and I think that these are going to be amazingly warm socks for fall and winter. By the way, my box of socks is not going to make it. I am not going to have 12 pairs by the time the new year comes, but I have quite a few in there, and if I finish this pair and the other pair I have on the needles, I'll be on my way, but I'm certainly not going to make it to be entered into any prizes. I'm not going to have 12. It's not going to happen. So I want to do a little bit more work on this. I haven't worked on these in probably a week because I really am trying to concentrate on my Saturate shawl, although I find that I do get distracted very easily when working on it. So maybe I'll knit these for a little while today. I don't know. The only other thing I have on my needles is something you've seen a bunch of times, but you know, let's check in, shall we? This is my pudding socks. So this is the second sock. This is one of those projects that I'm sort of having a difficult time knitting. I don't know why, but for some reason knitting on these just makes me feel bleh. Even though I love them and I love the yarn and I love that they're pudding and I love the colors and knitting wise I love everything about this project, but for some reason I've not been into knitting these lately. So I try to put in a few rows now and then. As you can see, I've got my gold waste yarn in there. Gold, yellow. Sounds better when I call it gold, doesn't it? So I did get past where I'm going to insert the heel, and now I'm working on the foot of the sock. So these are going to be afterthought heels like their partners. I have no idea which afterthought heel I used on the first sock, so I guess I'll have to take a look at it and really pay attention and try to do one that's the same, because I cannot handle if it has a different heel. Cannot handle it. I will take it apart and do it as many times as necessary. So yeah, this is Valkyrie Fibers in her pudding colorway, self-striping. This was part of the Supernatural Sock Club, which was so fun. So fun getting a Supernatural themed sock yarn. This is specifically Dean themed, and as you may or may not know, I am, of course, you know, hashtag Team Dean. So yeah, these socks I love. I've just stalled out on knitting them. These were intended to be my sort of plain stockinette project. I'm using 9-inch circulars, as you can see, and these are Hiya sharps, and they are sharp. They're not sharp like they're gonna cut me, but they're sharp enough that when I push them, they hurt more than the Chiagus. So I definitely prefer the Chiagus, my 9-inch Chiagus over these, just for that reason. But knitting wise, no problems with them. You know, they're 9 inches. They work. So I'm gonna keep forcing myself to work on these. They're just plain stockinette, Kate. You can do it, right? So that's all the knitting I have to show you, I think. I love this mug. It's just so comfortable. What else do we usually talk about? Patterns on my radar. I don't know if I have any patterns on my radar lately. I'm sort of just getting back into the swing of the knitting things. The only things, like I said, I'm definitely thinking about casting on a Wolf River, which is a pattern by Melissa, and I'm going to butcher this. I believe it's Swashworry. Swashworry. Yes. From Plum Dandy. And it's been in my queue forever, and I've had the yarn for at least a couple years for it, and it's just sort of laughing at me. So I really think that that would be a sort of easy knit to do for myself for the fall/winter. So I'm really thinking about getting started on one of those. I've also been resisting the urge to knit any hats, because that's what I always do. I knit hats. I knit hats for myself, and then I have all these hats that I don't know what to do with because I don't even wear hats that often. I just really love knitting them, so I keep making them. But I have some yarn in mind that I'd like to make mittens with, because I don't have a pair of mittens or gloves, but I'm not knitting gloves. That's not gonna happen. I'm not knitting anything with individual fingers. So I was thinking of maybe knitting myself a pair of mittens for the winter. I don't know. I really am just trying to ease back into all of the knitting stuff, and you know, I want to just allow myself to be sort of excited about yarn and knitting things as it comes up, because I haven't really been able to do that. So I should mention that a couple weeks ago I did go to the Do You Knit 5th anniversary. So Do You Knit is a yarn store in New Jersey. So this was actually my first time ever going to New Jersey, believe it or not. I think I went to Six Flags New Jersey once when I was a teenager, but besides that, this was my first time going to New Jersey. And the yarn shop is absolutely beautiful. You should follow Do You Knit on Instagram, because it's a fun photo thread to look through. I know that Karen has a podcast that I haven't gotten to watch. I actually have not watched a single knitting podcast in at least 2 months. So that's something I also need to get started on again. But it was super, super fun. Kristen of Wool&Vine Yarns and the Yarngasm podcast was there. She did a trunk show, and if you've ever tried to get a hold of any Wool&Vine yarn before, you know that it's extremely difficult to do. Her updates sell out crazy fast, and it's nearly impossible to get more than a skein. I have nabbed a single skein from her updates before, twice I've gotten individual skeins from her updates, but they're super hard to jump on. So seeing an entire, like, you know, basically dining room table filled with her yarns was just insanity. And actually I did make a purchase, which I should show you, for, you know, stash enhancement for some acquisitions. That's a thing I do. So sit tight and I will show you what I got. So this actually counts for knitting on my radar and acquisitions, because at the Do You Knit anniversary I purchased a kit from Kristen from Wool&Vine Yarns, and you may have seen she has a new shawl pattern out. It's called the Oracle shawl. It's a circular shawl and it incorporates lace and brioche. It's a 3-color shawl. I've not done brioche. I have practiced the basics of it. I grasped the idea, but I haven't really attempted a project with it yet. And this isn't covered in brioche, it just has brioche sections. So I will try to insert a picture of it here just so you can kind of see what it looks like. It's very difficult to describe, but it's a beautiful shawl. So I bought a kit. It's been a long time since I've purchased any yarn. So I bought a kit for it, and it looks like this. Let me try that again. So I know the lighting in here is not the best, but this color kit just was screaming my name. It's actually a little bit weird for me, but yet very me. I don't know. I'll show you them one by one. So this first one, and these are all in her Nouveau base, which is 100% superwash merino. It's single ply. I know, I've said before I don't love single ply, but this single ply looks really, really sturdy. The only other single ply that I've worked with before is the Madeline Tosh TML, the Tosh Merino Light. Didn't love it. The finished fabric in the project I liked, but I didn't love knitting with it. This seems a lot more sturdy, like a lot. So this is Mooncusser. Mooncusser is a color of Kristen's that I've admired for quite a while. It's a purple, it's like a dirty purple, which is my thing. I love dirty purple. And it's got these autumnal shades in there and these fabulous speckles. Just really cool. So this was like my main draw to the kit. But then there was this. This is Angry Orchard. And this is not really me, typically, but I'm obsessed with these speckles. So it's this peachy, that's got some points that are more pink and some points that are more orange, and then it's got these flecks of green in there. And I think that it pairs just really, really well with this. Again, kind of a weird combo for me, but I don't know, I was into it. And lastly, the last color is Spiderella. So this is the lightest of the bunch, and it's, again, the base of this is sort of like an off-white to the gray side, to the pale gray side, and it's flecked heavily with dark purples and blacks and oranges, and it's just basically the perfect tie-in for the other two colors here. So I'm gonna do that thing where I'm unsuccessful at holding 3 colors up at once. No, I can do this. I can't. This way. Okay, sorry. I have little hands. So, yeah. It's gonna be a really cool combination. This shawl might be a little, I don't want to say advanced for me. I don't feel like there are many things that are too advanced for me to knit. But it's definitely gonna be a challenge. Especially the brioche, because I haven't done it. So, I don't know when I'm gonna knit this, but I guess I'll see how I feel after I finish my Saturate shawl, and then I can sort of gauge when I want to start my next shawl, because I either am gonna want to take a break or I'm gonna want to knit all of the shawls. And I still have Andrea Mowry's Free or Fade on the needles, which I have not touched at all, because as you may remember, I wasn't happy with the way the gauge was coming out. So I was using a size 4, I may need to go down to US 3, so that's something I need to revisit. So I may want to either restart or finish that shawl before I start anything else. So yeah, that's what's going on in my knitting world. Thank you if you have sat through this episode and sort of endured my out of practice podcast. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed chatting with me today, I hope you consider subscribing to my channel, and yeah, I'm gonna leave you with some photos of my new cat Whiskey, because she's super adorable and everybody knows that cats and yarn go together really, really well. So thanks again for watching, and happy knitting!